Okay, so I just rewatched the other video, the preliminary test video of mine that I just pushed out there, and I decided to do the second one because I don't think I look all that bad, right? I think if you're watching me right now, I think you will probably agree that I'm not too awkward with the camera, thanks to some of the theater courses I've taken in the past. So the primary focus of today's discussion is really around my and everyone. Maybe I'm a slightly a little mild narcissist myself that I haven't noticed, but right, I think it's like it's human nature to want to talk about themselves. Um, so, how I came to realize that there was something abnormal with my past relationship, and this was a romantic relationship, turned out to be not so romantic at the end. Well, and then throughout the experience as well. I think in order, I feel a strong urge in sharing my own personal experience and making myself very vulnerable and put this in public out there just to raise awareness to help some of you who may be going through the same thing. So it started out, my relationships started out fairly normal. Um, However, about 6 months into the relationship, the individual started displaying some signs of I at that time I didn't think it was abusive. Like I had never been abused by anyone prior to that. So in my experience it was just like, oh, he has very strong personality. But I started making excuses for the individual. The narcissism or the lack of the name narcissism, like the sign and symptoms, only really came out in full bloom in about a year into the relationship, at which point we already cohabitated. It started with like screaming and yelling, and I always felt like I was the lesser person in the relationship. It's not like he ever come out saying, hey, you know, stupid, you're the lesser, you're not an equal in this relationship. No, the individual never verbalize it. But, all of the studies I've done over the past 18 months, he displayed all of the behaviors and symptoms of a narcissist. Namely, first of all, they think very well. They started whatever the term is that people out there are using, love bombing. So he made me felt like the center of the universe, right? And you may argue that, yeah, at the end of the relationship, when you're in a honeymoon phase, yeah, like you always feel like the center of each other's universe. That can be true, but like this was really intense love bombing. And it's not to say that I've never felt that before. I mean, I felt that, and that's why it was just normal to me that, oh, yeah, this is like the honeymoon phase. I recognize that, and that's perfectly normal. About 6 months into the relationship, I remember one night we were we had planned to go somewhere, and I was just a little, I had a term paper due, so I was a little tardy in getting out of the house. And he was very agitated, and he started, insinuating certain things. And it came across really harsh to me at the time. And again, I'm like, okay, I brushed it off because it was the first time. So again, I'm like, okay, it wasn't anything. Maybe he was just like really concerned for his to keep his friends waiting. Maybe he's just like so eager to show me off to his friend for the first time. So I brushed it off. I made excuses. Classic, right? When you watch a relationship from afar, it's very easy for you to like, oh yeah, you're so stupid because all the signs were there. How could you not know? But putting yourself in the situation in the moment, it's like you don't have the micro lens. Maybe you're too deep down in the weeds. You don't recognize that you're experiencing it because it's subtle, right? If like an abusive person who's constantly abusive in every single minute, every single day, it would no one in their right mind would stay in that type of relationship. However, the abuse just kind of increase over time, very gradually, that the victim does not recognize it when they're in the moment. They treat that they treat the abusive episodes as like isolated incidents rather. That's why the victims tend to make excuses for the predator. Okay, that's the second one. And I'm not expecting, if you're watching this video, I guess that you've gotten to the point where you have suspected for a while now that your relationship with the, whoever you have in mind watching this video is an abusive relationship. Let that be romantic or platonic or whatever, right? You had already suspected for a while. That's why you are searching on the internet for some similar experience, some unlucky one like myself, right? To see if you could find any commonalities and that landed you on this video. And then over the year, the verbal abusiveness graduated and escalated into some type of physical abusiveness. But before it gets there, you know what? This would start with shouting and screaming. So it like the emotional abuse will become the verbal abuse in the form of like screaming and shouting and or like silent treatment, right? I mean, sorry, it's kind of counterintuitive to say that silent treatment is verbal abusive. It's mental abusive, right? But it is like the opposite of verbal abuse. So then the individual will start raising their voice at you, um, at a more increasing frequency, and to the point that they totally in their mind justify that they have the right to scream and yell at you whenever they please. And I can share a couple of videos with you, um, maybe later, to just kind of give you an idea of what it sounds like in reality, right? So that's like the second stage. And the third stage is they would get so verbally abusive that they feel like they have the right to close a proximity with you and to you during their verbal abuse episode. So this is where it would escalate. This is the transition to physical abusive, right? Where they just close the physical distance between you and them during each episode, and then they will they get really close to your face to the point that you get really frightened, and they would not back out even when you ask them to step away, right? Or coerce you into doing things that you don't want to do. And then they'll close the physical distance, and then finally the final stage is when they lay their hands on you. And it's like, for a narcissist, in their mind, is everything is totally justified. And in every single argument that we had, it's like they perceive things very one-sidedly, and whatever that really happens, like the reason why I have videos, and these are like consensual videos, by the way, and not that type of videos that you're thinking about, just like when I videotape the conversation or the argument between me and the individual, and I rewatch the videos, and we both watch the videos at a later time, it seems like the way I perceive it, the way I remember the experience was almost identical to what actually had been captured on videos. And then the individual, the said person, perspective, it's just like entirely isolated, one sided. It's like, okay, Trump, right? He said, the media it's fake news, right? The media actually victimize him. Um, and it's kind of the same thing. Like this individual would say would say things that are just like isolated, and it's like modify, cut and paste from footage, like very selectively, right? And I couldn't understand this spans over the course of a decade from which to judge. And I know that I look super young, but the fact is that like I spent a whole entire decade with this person from which to judge, observe, and then and judge, right, for myself. And my judgment wasn't based off like very judgmental observations. No, it's based off of my studies of my relationship. So just a couple of things I want to share with you, put out there. If you're experiencing the 3, 4 things that I mentioned, then maybe it's worth buying a book on narcissism and read on it a little more. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop my streak of English videos now here, and I'm gonna trying to study up and trying to better explain it in Vietnamese to my audience, because I know there are tons of English videos out there for narcissism and how to identify narcissist tendencies in people, but there aren't many in Vietnamese. So I'm going to try to explain this in Vietnamese to the best of my ability. Thank you for your continued watching and interest in my series of videos, even though this is the second one out of the series. But hopefully I'll be able to help you navigate through this water and relationship, and hopefully help you persevere, as well as um, get out the relationship being stronger than you were to begin with. Thank you for watching.